Man, oh man, I might have found a kid's version of Black Mirror, so let's talk about it. This episode comes from a series on Netflix called Creeped Out, and I find this particular episode really freaking creepy. It's called One More Minute, and is the first episode of the second season. It really reminds me of Black Mirror, and you will see exactly why. These episodes always kick off with this mysterious person walking around in this creepy mask, and the narrator says that time slows down when you're bored, and flies when you're having fun. Does that mean we can control time through the things we choose to do? That's a pretty interesting question. Think about that while we dive into this episode. So it starts with the main character Jack, and he was playing this game called Kingdom of Tevin with his two best friends, Carlos and Rich, while his little brother Aiden watches. Now they were chatting through their headsets, and as Jack celebrates his latest win, his mom interrupts him telling him it was time for bed. Jack then asks for one more minute, so she says lights out in 2 minutes. So once she leaves, Jack continues playing the game, but Carlos and Rich have to go offline. So he plays with a stranger who goes by the name The Paladin. Jack ends up playing this game all night and wakes up late the next morning. So as you can imagine, this man Jack is exhausted at school the next day. He meets up with Carlos and Rich in the hallway, which after telling this man he looks exhausted, he tells them he played Kingdom of Tevin until 3 a.m. The girl Jack has a crush on walks up, whose name was Carrie, which Jack then tries telling her a joke, but he's too tired to remember what he should even be saying and messes it up. Carlos then invites Carrie to a party he was having on Sunday, and he was expecting his two best friends to show up because it was his birthday. But on the day of the party, Jack is getting ready to leave when the Paladin comes online and says he needs backup. Keep in mind Jack's mom was calling his name saying last call for a ride to the party, but he just can't resist the urge to play this game. He says, "One more minute," and says he would just play for 15 minutes. But the next thing he knows, several hours have passed and the party is over. We see Jack has missed a bunch of text messages and calls from Rich, Carlos, and Carrie. It also looks like they had a blast at the party. So at school the next day, Jack is confronted by Carlos and Rich as to why he didn't attend the party. Jack pretends he couldn't make it to the party because he was sick, so Carlos and Rich, being good friends, believed him. Even though Carlos was still pretty upset about him ditching his party, I could tell he wasn't really buying the whole sick story. Now they end up on the subject of video games, and they end up inviting Carrie to play with them later on that night after school because she had just downloaded Kingdom of Tevin. Now they had been playing for hours at this point, so eventually all the others leave the game to go spend time with their families. But Jack and the Paladin, this mysterious person online who's always conveniently available when Jack has no one else to play with, continue playing. I don't know, man, just seems kind of weird to me. So yeah, once again, time seems to pass in the blink of an eye. Jack eventually snaps out of this simulation when he hears his mom calling his name, and this was horrifying because looking at the calendar, he realizes a whole freaking month had went by. It appears every time Jack starts playing this game, he becomes trapped in some type of simulation, and whenever he comes out of it, it will be hours, days, sometimes weeks in the future, but he will have no memory of it. This is crazy. Jack's mom tells him she's worried, and for the last month, he has been very distant, unhelpful, and has been doing bad in school. He tries to explain he has no memory of the past month, but she says they went to the doctor 2 days ago and he got a clean bill of health. Imagine being in this man's shoes. How many times have you sat down to play your favorite video game, getting sucked into its greatness, only to look at the clock and see hours have went by? Well, imagine the same scenario, but when you're done playing the game, months have went by and you have no memory of this. This is freaking terrifying. Now when Jack returns to school, he is horrified to discover Carlos is now dating Carrie. Rich and Carlos say they have barely seen him for weeks, and that he said he didn't care about Carrie anymore. But Jack had no memory of this, obviously. They were genuinely concerned about him and asked what's been going on. Jack says, "Okay, listen guys, I don't have any memory from the last month. The last thing I remember is missing the party, playing Tevin the next night, and then nothing after that. Carlos and Rich don't really buy this whole amnesia story, accusing him of lying, but Jack ends up apologizing, and you could tell how sincere he was.
I don't know what's been going on with me. I'm fine now. I'm sorry.
So Carlos and Rich forgive him and invite him to play Kingdom of Tevin tonight. Now this wasn't an issue at first. The guys were enjoying themselves and Jack was letting his little brother play with the bros.
Now we can't!
But then it starts getting late. His mom comes in and tells them it's time for bed. So yeah, this time Jack actually turns off the game, but he doesn't go to sleep. He decides to stay up and finish his homework instead. And this is when things take a really dark turn for the worse. Jack can't sleep and ends up logging back into this game, and he and this paladin guy play literally until they have completed the entire game. This was way worse this time because Jack gets stuck in this simulation for 5 freaking years. Jack is now 18 years old, though he still sees himself as 13. This was absolutely insane. Aiden is a teenager, his family moved into a different home, and the brothers have a new stepdad. He tries to explain what has happened to Aiden, but he doesn't believe him. Jack tries to tell him he's been transported 5 years into the future and has no memory of the last 5 years. He says, "In my head, I'm in grade 9, which is why he still appears to be 13 even though everyone else is older." Keep in mind we're viewing this in third person, but we're getting to view Jack as he sees himself. Now this really didn't help any because his brother just thought he was losing his mind and recommended that he seek some help. So later on that day at school, Jack bumps into an angry Carlos who was much older, who tells him they are no longer friends. Apparently Jack at some point started ignoring Carlos during the simulation he was in. Jack says, "What about Rich?" He says, Rich moved away years ago. It must be terrifying to see your life just pass you by without having any memory of it. And it was also at this time Jack finds out that he has a very important exam coming up, but he has no idea how to answer any of the questions for obvious reasons. He hasn't been in class, so he rushes out of the classroom in a panic, shouting that he wants to go back. At home later that day, Aiden tells Jack that he remembers the argument Jack and his mom had years ago, during which he had said he lost his memory of the past month. This proved to him that Jack wasn't lying, because he tried to mention this memory loss to his mom a few years ago. Now he believes him and says they should go for pizza and talk about it, but also mentions a big update for Kingdom of Tevin had been released that day. Now similar to Black Mirror, all these episodes have a very crazy twist at the end, and I couldn't believe what was actually occurring throughout this episode. Jack hears the voice of that same paladin guy he used to play the game with, and what was strange about this is that his headset wasn't plugged in. So how was he hearing his voice? Well, the entire time this mysterious person Jack was playing duos with was
himself.
Yeah, the entire time this voice was in Jack's head. Jack says, "No, this can't be." The voice then says, "How do you think I've been able to be here whenever you're bored, whenever you're feeling lonely?" It makes sense why he was always conveniently ready to play whenever Jack's old friends would get off. I told you guys it was something weird about that man. What was even crazier about this episode is that this voice in his head convinces Jack to log back in and play this game again. Jack's brother comes back in asking if he was ready to go get pizza when he sees his brother Jack about to make another terrible decision. Jack gives him this disturbing look like he's not in control of his own actions. It's like he really can't fight this urge to play this game. His brother says, "Stop.
You have a choice."
But Jack loses this battle. His inner voice says, "Just one more
Minute.
This was creepy as hell, man. So yeah, I'm guessing Jack goes back into this simulation, and this time there's no telling how much time has passed. So the big question I have for you, if you have made it this far into the video, how many one mores
It's too many.
you may only find out once you've passed the point of no return. So yeah guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please be sure to drop your comments about this episode in the comments below, because it was just insane to me. So I would like to hear you guys' opinion about it and if you have seen this show. But anyways guys, please be sure to drop a like and check out more of my content here on my channel, and until next time, peace.